There's a guy who parks his 2011 Honda Civic in the same lot every morning. Faded paint, small dent on the rear bumper. Nothing special. His coworkers assume he's struggling, maybe living paycheck to paycheck, perhaps one emergency away from real trouble. What they don't know is that he has $4.2 million in index funds. His house is paid off. His kids' college funds are fully funded. He could retire tomorrow if he wanted. He chooses the Civic on purpose. According to research from the Millionaire Next Door, the median price millionaires pay for their cars is just $31,367. An Experian automotive study found that 61% of people earning over $250,000 drive Hondas, Toyotas, or Fords, not BMWs, not Mercedes. Regular cars that blend into any parking lot in America. Meanwhile, 8% of people earning under $100,000 own luxury vehicles. They're spending $60,000 on cars while making $50,000 a year. One group looks wealthy, the other group actually is wealthy. These are rarely the same people. This video isn't about being cheap. It's about understanding something that most people never figure out. Looking poor might be the most important financial strategy you ever adopt. The research on this is overwhelming. The people who actually build wealth behave nothing like the people who appear wealthy. Thomas Stanley and William Danko spent decades studying millionaires across America. Their findings shattered every assumption about what wealthy people look like. 80% of millionaires are first-generation affluent. They didn't inherit their money, they built it themselves. Half of them have lived in the same house for more than 20 years. They're more likely to drive a Ford than a Bentley. The authors found that millionaires were disproportionately clustered in middle-class and blue-collar neighborhoods, not affluent communities. This surprised even the researchers, who expected the opposite. The explanation is simple. High-income, white-collar professionals tend to devote their income to luxury goods and status items. They're playing a visibility game. They want everyone to know they've made it. Actual wealth builders play a different game entirely. They understand that every dollar spent on appearance is a dollar that can't compound over 30 years. They've done the math. Dave Ramsey's research on millionaire behavior confirms the pattern. The top 10 car brands driven by millionaires start with Toyota at number 1. Honda sits at number 2. Ford comes third. BMW doesn't appear until number 6. Mercedes doesn't crack the list at all. Jeff Bezos drove a Honda Accord for years. Mark Zuckerberg was spotted in an Acura TSX. Larry Page, co-founder of Google, drove a Toyota Prius. Warren Buffett still lives in the same house he bought in 1958 for $31,500. These aren't people who can't afford better. They're people who've decided that looking wealthy isn't worth the cost of actually being wealthy. The psychology behind this choice reveals something important about how wealth actually works. Sociologist Thorstein Veblen introduced the concept of conspicuous consumption over a century ago. His central observation was that people don't just buy products for utility, they buy signals. Luxury brands aren't selling materials, they're selling narrative. A $50,000 watch tells time exactly as well as a $50 watch. The extra $49,950 buys something else entirely, the ability to signal status to others. Research shows that people who view money as a symbol of power and success report lower levels of financial satisfaction. They buy expensive things to impress others and demonstrate value, often without monitoring or planning their overall spending. The irony is brutal. The pursuit of appearing wealthy creates the conditions that prevent actual wealth. Every leased BMW represents a monthly payment that could have gone into investments. Every designer handbag represents shares of index funds that weren't purchased. Every status symbol has an opportunity cost measured in decades of compound growth. A 2025 Empower study found that 62% of everyday millionaires still budget, shop deals, and avoid extravagant lifestyles even after crossing the $1 million threshold. They understand that the habits that built wealth are the same habits that preserve it. The visibility of wealth creates problems that invisibility avoids entirely. According to Javelin Research, cybercriminals stole the identities of 6.4% of the general public. That number jumped to 8.1% for high net worth individuals with assets of $1 million or greater. A joint study by Experian and the Department of Justice found that affluent Americans are 43% more likely to experience identity theft compared to the general population. The more visibly wealthy you are, the larger the target on your back. High net worth individuals face what security experts call whaling attacks. Unlike mass phishing scams, these are meticulously crafted operations using profiles assembled from social media, data breaches, and open source intelligence. Attackers impersonate trusted advisors, private bankers, or family members to extract sensitive information or authorize fraudulent transfers. Synthetic identity fraud is now the fastest growing type of financial crime in the United States. Criminals use real and fabricated data to create credible-looking identities that can open accounts, funnel money, or corrupt a family's entire financial ecosystem. The Federal Trade Commission reported that Americans lost $10.3 billion to fraud in 2023. Investment fraud alone accounted for $4.6 billion of those losses, with sophisticated schemes specifically targeting affluent individuals. Looking wealthy advertises exactly what you have. Looking poor protects it. The social dynamics of visible wealth create pressures that compound over time. When you drive a luxury car, people assume you can afford expensive dinners. When you wear designer clothes, colleagues expect you to pick up the tab. When you live in an affluent neighborhood, the baseline spending of everyone around you inflates your own expectations. Research on social comparison shows that status is relational. It only exists relative to others. In high inequality environments, status signaling becomes more aggressive. The distance between tiers widens, and comparison intensifies. Behavioral studies demonstrate that higher income individuals tend to exhibit increased social distance from lower income groups. Different schools, different neighborhoods, different social circles. Over time, this produces echo chambers of class. The person driving the old Honda maintains access to a wider range of social connections. Nobody treats them differently because of perceived wealth. Nobody expects them to pay more than their share. Nobody resents them for having more. This social invisibility provides something that money literally cannot buy: authenticity in relationships. Research indicates that high net worth individuals frequently report a paradox of increased power paired with decreased trust. Relationships become harder to evaluate. They can never be certain whether someone likes them or their money. The person who looks middle class while being quietly wealthy avoids this problem entirely. Their friendships are based on who they are, not what they have. Their relationships weren't filtered through the lens of perceived financial status. The authors of The Millionaire Next Door created a framework that separates wealth builders from wealth destroyers. PAWs are prodigious accumulators of wealth. UAWs are under-accumulators of wealth. The categories have nothing to do with income and everything to do with behavior. A $50,000 a year janitor can be more of a PAW than a $700,000 a year doctor. The spending habits determine the category, not the salary. The formula is simple. Multiply your age by your pre-tax annual household income, then divide by 10. A 40-year-old earning $150,000 should have approximately $600,000 in net worth. Those below this threshold are under-accumulators, spending their income rather than building wealth. UAWs live in luxury, style, and comfort. They're often highly educated professionals in demanding careers. They understand compound interest intellectually, they just don't practice it behaviorally. The spending habits of UAWs stem from what researchers call the better-than theory. Each purchase represents an attempt to signal superiority. Better car than the neighbor, better watch than the colleague, better vacation than the sibling. These financial choices are called million-dollar choices because if the choice hadn't been made, the person would have over $1 million. The cigarette example from the original research makes the math visceral. One couple smoked 3 packs a day for 46 years. The cumulative cost of those cigarettes exceeded the value of their home by $33,000. Had they invested that money instead, the portfolio would have exceeded $2 million. Status purchases work the same way. The difference between a $30,000 car and an $80,000 car, invested over 25 years at 7% annual returns, becomes roughly $270,000. That's the real price of looking wealthy.